You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
Day 2, Radio Row SEC Football Media Days. Thrilled to have you aboard with us here. Coverage all week is presented by Parish Construction and Roofing. Visit parishbuilt.com. And also presented by Rev Business and Relief Windows. Usually on Tuesdays, we talk to Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, get a little recruiting report. Well, we have Billy Embody physically here on Radio Row. So take that, Shea. Cheating on you today with our side piece. Billy's here. Thank you. How are you, man? Good to see you.
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. You know, it's so interesting being at this event to have you because every interview I do on every station where they ask about LSU, everyone keeps saying, well, does LSU have the talent defensively to be better? And I think the answer is no. How do you feel?
I don't know if they have the talent in the secondary to be that much better defensively, but I think what they can do is if they can develop their young talent on the defensive line that they've brought in, if they can get a little bit more out of those transfers on the defensive line like Suggs and Paez, then maybe that helps those linebackers flow. But the X factor that I've talked with people that ask me about is, will Harold Perkins be that star in his new role like he has been for LSU in all the other ways that they've used him? And if he can be that type of a game wrecker, that at least gives you that key centerpiece for LSU to kind of build around at that second level of that defense. And I do think that Blake Baker's scheme, the staff that has been brought in, is better suited to develop the guys they have. And look, it can't get much worse. They can't
be worse. And Billy, I think I've told everybody, I've used the same line 1,000 times. Like, I don't think they're going to be great this year defensively, but like they can't be worse. Just don't be the worst defense ever. You know what I mean? So the question, how much better can they be? And I agree, they'll be coached better, they'll be better, but they're not going to be elite again until you improve the talent. That obviously starts in recruiting. So let's talk about what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball. Tomorrow, Wednesday, a 5-star DJ Pickett, the number 1 cornerback in the country, expected to make his announcement. All we hear is how, I mean, his own words were his relationship with Corey Raymond is like no other. Like, very clearly, it's not all about just your position coach, but that seems to give LSU a big leg up, maybe.
Yeah, and Corey's been recruiting him since his days at Florida, and he's from Tampa. He's from right down the road from where Corey was in Gainesville, and even when Corey was there was always a thought that he was going to go out of state. That's why Miami is still having to swing and try and find a way to keep him in state so hard, because he has had his eyes outside of the state, you know, whether it be Oregon, whether it be some other players in his recruitment throughout. But Oregon and LSU have emerged as the 2 top programs to land him. And, you know, in a battle like this, where there is so much at stake for a Mario Cristobal, when Oregon has pushed so many chips in on a DJ Pickett and Corey Raymond too, you know, Corey has really pushed a lot of chips in on DJ Pickett. It's so important that they find a way to come away with him, because he is an instant impact player. He's all of 6'4". He's got all the measurables. He plays both ways. He is a stud. And when it comes down to his decision, his father's told us at On3, it's a lot of back and forth. And you know what that means whenever you hear that. For the most part, it's, well, what's the NIL opportunity going to be? And I don't think he's necessarily a true highest bidder type of player. Okay. Because I do feel like he's got some good relationships across the board. So it's weighing that. It's weighing going to the opposite corner of the country in Oregon, you know, all the way away from his family. It's going and playing with family, Cannon Pickett, his cousin at Miami. You know, that's an opportunity that's there. And then it's LSU, which is kind of a mix between, you know, Corey Raymond, who's recruited you for so long. He's developed you. He's had help from the entire staff. He's had NFL talent from LSU reaching out to DJ and recruiting him and sharing why this would be a good opportunity for him. And LSU, I think, with this class, we've heard about NIL this with the transfer portal, but you don't have the number 1 overall prospect in the country and Bryce Underwood committed without a strong NIL opportunity. And I think this is one of those players that LSU is going all out for in that realm. So I don't think that's going to be ultimately what leads him away from LSU. I think it's going to be a matter of balancing those things, but he can make a pretty penny wherever he goes.
How do you think, do you have a feeling how the decision goes on Wednesday?
Steve Wiltfong put a pick in for Oregon earlier this morning, and I do feel like they've had a little bit more confidence over the last several weeks versus LSU and Miami, who have done well. They keep in constant contact, all of those things. But we've also seen a lot of prospects as of late kind of play a little bit of a game and end up going somewhere else. Like, look at C.J. Wiley, 4-star wide receiver out of Georgia, LSU legacy. LSU and Georgia kind of thought they were battling it out. Well, he ends up committing to the Seminoles. So there are some other examples throughout this cycle, and maybe DJ's playing a little bit of intrigue because there's not many times anymore when people don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
And DJ is a super quiet kid. He doesn't really do many of the interviews himself unless you catch him in person. But he's really high on these three programs, and it wouldn't shock me if he went anywhere. But right now, Oregon does seem like the one with a buzz.
Well, the two highest-rated uncommitted cornerbacks are Pickett and Jabari Antoine, a kid from New Iberia. How do we feel about Antoine, whose decision's coming up as well?
The interesting thing about Jabari is he is deciding this weekend. It sounds like Miami's going to land him. Chevis Jackson, Lance Guidry down there, recruiting him and have made him a big priority. And I think sometimes kids commit so early in the process from Louisiana at times. And right when Corey Raymond got back, he got Jabari Antoine and others on the staff helped get Jabari Antoine to commit to LSU. And then during that time, they knew that they had to go out and get incredible talent and upgrade that room. They tried for Dorian Brew. They're working on DJ Pickett. By the time Jabari makes his decision, DJ will have made a commitment. But those are high-end talents that had to be prioritized, and they're from out of state. And so they had to spend a lot of time on that. And like Keelan Moses going to visit Texas A&M, sometimes kids just feel a little, like they might not have been the big priority. Everybody in the linebacker class is talking about CJ Ross, who's committed to LSU, 4-star on the rise. And so I think that's one of those situations where Jabari might not have felt as much love as maybe he should have throughout the process. But the good thing is it is July, which everybody knows is when classes are all signed, sealed, and delivered. So I don't expect it to be LSU. I would think Miami's the pick this weekend for him, but he'd be a nice land to get into the boat at some point from a perception.
Yeah. Billy Embody on 3, the Bengal Tiger, good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here from Radio Row, talking recruiting. So a lot coming up. Look, I mean, if you don't get Pickett or Jabari Antoine, where do you go next? The corner. Well, you've got to get players back there.
100%. And I think the big thing that Brian Kelly's staff, with this defensive staff that he's brought in, is going to do is if they miss, which hopefully we talk about some good news here in a bit,
no doubt.
But if they miss, they're a staff that can go out in the transfer portal in December and not leave it to the spring, which was a miscalculation, I think we all know.
Yeah.
But they will go out and be aggressive and spend some of the money that would have gone to a Pickett or would have gone to somebody else. And let's go get a instant starter, an all SEC type of cornerback that can step in right away, maybe has multiple years. Or maybe somebody emerges, maybe they flip someone. All of those things are on the table because, as we saw last year with Don McKinley, Gabe Relaford, guys like that, it's a lot of time.
Yeah. Derek Meadows, other side of the ball, receiver, big kid out of Bishop Gorman. I think you guys have him as a 5-star. One of the service has him as a 5-star. Top 50 in your composite. Is LSU going to get him on Saturday? It certainly feels like it was trending that way. And then whenever he announced he was delaying the decision a week, it was kind of like, for me anyway, my perception was, So what's going on there?
Yeah, I think Derek Meadows is one of the guys that when you look at it on the surface, LSU had him on a midweek official visit, and people were kind of like, oh, this is a throwaway official visit. He's going to Notre Dame. Well, LSU staff has really worked really hard on him and tried to get them into the mix, and so much so that I think they had all that momentum going into the decision. Alabama and LSU were the two schools that were talked about the most. I think Notre Dame was kind of shocked by that, and so they certainly pushed back and said, hey, let's talk about this a little bit more and let's see if we can maybe work some magic back our way. And so as we sit here on Tuesday, there's still, again, a lot of time, but LSU is very much in the picture for Derek Meadows, very much, I would say, sitting in a good spot.
Yeah.
And, that would be after a summer of, DeCorey Moore and Khaleke Lockett and some of these big receivers not going LSU's way. This would be one that would be a huge land, and I think there's a good chance it happens.
Who are the other players coming up here this weekend or in the coming weeks we need to be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, two that I want to talk about are CJ Jim Coyley out of the state of Tennessee, a 4-star defensive back who is actually down and a program, but Brian Kelly's probably battled a good bit throughout his career, Stanford. So you don't hear too many LSU Stanford battles, but they are certainly.
That's Stanford out of the ACC, by the way.
That is right. We've got to retrain ourselves on that stuff, but LSU is sitting in a good spot here as well. And I think Jake Olson deserves a lot of credit for the work he's done to get LSU in a position where you can be in a battle with Stanford, because it is a particular type of young man that goes to Stanford and has different priorities than, for the most part, kids that LSU recruits and, all of those things. And they've done well enough where I would say LSU's the favorite probably going into whenever he makes a decision. And so that's something that he and his family are going to continue to talk through, because it is two very different places, very different programs and universities. But LSU looks good for CJ Jim Coyley. And lastly, but certainly not least, Walter Buddy Mathis out of the East Coast is a 3-star defensive tackle. He's officially visited Auburn, Clemson, LSU, a couple others. He's a big priority for Bo Davis as well. And I would say LSU sits in a really good spot to land him. So if you think about getting Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, Buddy Mathis, that's a good trio of defensive tackles that can completely revamp that room once you lose a Jacoby and Guillory. And that puts LSU back on track in terms of the long-term bright future you would hope Bo Davis would build in that room.
So much of this 2025 class, the conversation's been all the elite offensive players, and everyone's been like, where are the defensive guys? Where are the defense? Well, here come the defensive guys. It was only a matter of time. Billy Embody on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Follow him on Twitter, X, whatever you call it. And I still like to say Twitter. Old habits die hard, whatever, right? Why would you get Elon's brilliant? He's a billionaire, but why would you get rid of one of the greatest brands?
I know. Tweet.
It's
now a post.
Let's just go with Twitter.
Yeah.
He's Billy Embody. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.